Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming to the Town of Hempstead's 2022 Police Service Awards. As residents from across the Town of Hempstead gather here this evening to celebrate some incredibly brave members of law enforcement, I would like to introduce tonight's MC, Councilman Anthony D'Esposito. A former New York Police Department detective, Councilman D'Esposito has himself protected New York streets and worked diligently to ensure that residents of the Empire State can live in communities free from violence. During his tenure in the NYPD, Councilman D'Esposito was responsible for making over 600 arrests, many of which were in connection with murders, shootings, assaults, and possession of illegal firearms. In addition to his time in law enforcement, Councilman D'Esposito also served as chief of the Island Park Fire Department, where he helped lead the recovery efforts in the wake of Superstorm Sandy. Indeed, even while in town government, Councilman D'Esposito has continued working to safeguard residents through such endeavors as the township's Narcan training courses, an educational initiative spearheaded by the councilman that helps train members of the public to respond to overdose emergencies by utilizing Narcan. The classes have seen over 10,000 Hempstead Town neighbors trained in the use of Narcan, a feat that is helping local law enforcement agencies respond to the opioid epidemic. It is with this career of service in mind that Councilman Anthony D'Esposito is a fitting pick to lead tonight's celebration, and I would now like to invite him to begin the program.
Well, thank you very much, Matt. And welcome, everyone, to the Town of Hempstead Police Service Awards. Supervisor Clavin is unable to join with us this evening, but I can speak firsthand that the supervisor has always and will continue to be a huge supporter of law enforcement, and he sends his congratulations to all of this evening's honorees. At this time, I'd like to ask the Nassau County Police Department Ceremonial Unit Color Guard to present the colors. Everyone, please stand.
Detail. Hold. Left. Face.
Now I'd like to ask Sergeant Frank Sino to lead us in the national anthem.
Oh, see, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, saved us that star-spangled banner yet waved. Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you, Sergeant Sino. Please remain standing as my good friend and the Commissioner of the Nassau County Police Department, Patrick Ryder, leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I'm glad I don't have to sing. Stand up behind. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. And now for our invocation, we'd like to welcome one of the chaplains of the Nassau County Police Department, Father Gordon.
On this night, we have gathered to recognize the wonderful accomplishments of these brave individuals who have so selflessly given of themselves in the defense and the protection of the citizens of Nassau County. It is right and good that we should begin by asking the Lord's blessings upon you as you continue to serve. For you are the guardians, the protectors, the overseers of this part of the Lord's vineyard, which we call Nassau County. And so let us pray. Heavenly Father, we ask your blessings upon these this evening as we commend to you these brave and selfless men and women who put themselves in service to their county and their neighbors and villages. We ask your continued blessings upon them and upon the officers with whom they serve. Bless their families who give them support each day and instill in them their dedication to serve and protect. Shield them from all danger. Give them prudence to discern always what is just and good. We make these petitions humbly as your faithful children. For you are one God forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you, Father Gordon. Nassau County Police Department Ceremonial Unit, please retire the colors.
Color guard, right, face. Forward, march.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for the Nassau County Police Department Ceremonial Unit. Once again, good evening, and I am proud to be joined by so many fellow members of law enforcement as we say thank you. Thank you to the men and women of each and every police department who keep our community safe day and night. I want to welcome some of my colleagues in government and leaders from law enforcement who are here with us this evening. Of course, I know she was here earlier for photos, but our Deputy Supervisor Dorothy Gooseby, Councilman Dennis Dunn, Councilman Tommy Muscarella, Councilman Chris Carini, Councilwoman Missy Miller. Of course, you heard from him. He needs no introduction, but he's a leader and someone who each and every day goes out there to make sure that he protects his cops and keeps Nassau County safe, and I'm proud to call him a great friend, and that's our Commissioner, Patty Ryder. From the village of Limbrook, Mayor Alan Beach. The Chief of Police from the village of Limbrook, Brian Palladino. The Police Commissioner from the village of Garden City, Kenny Jackson. From the village of Freeport, Mayor Robert Kennedy. From the Hempstead Police Department, Chief Johnson. And of course, I want to welcome all the members of our law enforcement unions, the PBAs, the SOAs, the detectives, and the villages who are all here this evening to celebrate their colleagues. A round of applause for all of you. The town of Hempstead has always had a great relationship with the men and women of law enforcement. Our local precincts are made up of police who live, work, and raise their families in the communities they serve and protect. This dynamic has created a system of trust and respect between residents and those who wear the uniform. It is a big reason why our town is one of the safest in the nation. The nature of events like these that police officers are typically recognized for could be a heroic or life-saving act. Tonight you will hear many incredible stories. However, it is also important to highlight the little things that officers do on a daily basis. Patrolling the streets, checking in on business owners, and chatting with local residents to make sure that community and police have a relationship. These are the small actions that help preserve the quality of life that we enjoy here in the town of Hempstead. And without the men and women who are in this room, who legitimately stand the line between good and evil, our communities would be a very different place. Over the past several years, police officers have taken on new responsibilities and challenges that are impacting all of Long Island. The COVID-19 pandemic was a huge burden on the men and women of law enforcement. The dramatic increase in opioid and drug abuse have led to increased police training in the use of Narcan. Gang violence is on the rise, and Nassau County Police Department is partnering with local schools to conduct drills and prepare children and teachers for the threat of mass shootings. A horrifying and disturbing thing to think about, but nonetheless, the things that the men and women in this room go out each and every day to protect all of us. Despite everything that police are doing for our community, we've seen a rise in anti-police rhetoric and violence. And I want to tell you that here in the town of Hempstead, I look out tonight, and I am so happy to be part of a group of colleagues from both sides of the aisle, Democrats and Republicans, that each and every time I bring up to them the thought about recognizing law enforcement, about working, partnering with local precincts and villages and the Nassau County Police Department, each and every one of them are always willing and they're first to say, how can we help? What can we do? What more can we do to recognize the men and women in blue? And it's sad to say that across this nation, more and more elected leaders, or so-called leaders, have turned their back on law enforcement. It's become commonplace for those elected to turn their backs on the men and women who hold that line. And ladies and gentlemen, you have my word that here in the town of Hempstead, we will do everything and anything that we can to make sure we continue to recognize, honor, and pay tribute to the men and women who serve in our law enforcement. So let's give them a round of applause. Reading through the bios of this year's honorees, they demonstrate just how violent and brazen many local criminals have become as a direct result of the failed policies of Albany. Opening fire at a shopping mall, shooting at police officers, operating a meth distribution ring in a suburban neighborhood. The list goes on and on. Just last week, a teenager was shot and killed just down the road at McDonald's. We heard the gunshots right here at Town Hall. Last month, someone fired a gun inside a local gym. These are places where people congregate. And suddenly, in America's safest town, innocent people can be hurt or killed just stepping out of their homes or place of business. That is why it is so important to support the efforts and the livelihoods of our local police officers. The thin blue line between law and order and stories like we're about to hear. I know that our community does, and the entire town board will do all they can to recognize you each and every day. So on behalf of the nearly 800,000 residents here in America's largest town, thank you. God bless you, and may you continue to keep all of us safe. And before we get into the biographies and hear the stories of these heroic men and women, how about a round of applause for the families of law enforcement that sends their loved ones off to work each and every day. And now I'd like to turn the program back over to Bat Cap from our Office of Communications for the reading of the bios and presentation of awards. God bless you all, and thank you.
I would now like to introduce tonight's first honorees, police officers Frank Kamage and Stephen Delaney of Nassau County's 1st Precinct. Policing is not all about daring rescues and heroic acts. Oftentimes, it's the little details that can prevent the big crimes from ever taking place. Police officers Frank Kamage and Stephen Delaney were on patrol in Uniondale this past July around midnight when they pulled over a vehicle with a busted front headlight and other equipment violations. Upon asking the driver to retrieve his registration and insurance information, the officers saw a handgun at the side of the driver's seat. After removing him from the vehicle, they recovered a ghost gun and multiple rounds of ammunition. A further investigation revealed the driver had an outstanding warrant for murder. Thanks to officers Frank Kamage and Stephen Delaney, a wanted murderer and an untraceable weapon were removed from the streets of Hempstead Town. Please join us in congratulating these dedicated officers as we present them with the Town of Hempstead Police Service Award. I would now like to introduce tonight's next honoree, Police Officer Daniel Clara of the Nassau County 3rd Precinct. Another midnight incident, this one out of East Garden City. On March 9th, Officer Daniel Clara and his partner responded to a report of a domestic disturbance. The 911 caller reported that a man was causing criminal mischief. Making matters worse, the man typically carried a gun on him. When Officer Clara approached the suspect, the man grabbed at his waistband and fled on foot. After a brief chase, Officer Clara discharged his taser, but the subject was protected by his coat, which he removed during the struggle. Officer Clara quickly caught up with the man. A canine unit was brought in to locate the coat, which was quickly found with a semi-automatic handgun in the pocket. At that time, the suspect, who also had ecstasy pills on him, was placed under arrest. Once again, Nassau's finest prevented a potentially dangerous crime before it took place, while also removing a deadly weapon from our streets. Please join us in congratulating Officer Daniel Clara as we present him with the Town of Hempstead Police Service Award.
Pop back up. Got the shoes shine and everything.
Our next honoree is Officer Anthony D'Esposito of the Nassau County 4th Precinct, who was unable to be here in person today as he is on his honeymoon, which is a good excuse not to be here. So we'd like to congratulate Officer D'Esposito, and we do have somebody here accepting the award on his behalf, and that is Matthew Schiller, Deputy Commanding Officer. Mr. Schiller. Now introducing tonight's next honoree, Officer Russell Mayfies of the Nassau County 5th Precinct. Communities across the town of Hempstead are well served by the hardworking heroes of our Nassau County Police Department. Serving in the west end of the township is Police Officer Russell Mayfies of the NCPD's 5th Precinct, a law enforcement professional worthy of great praise for his courage in difficult situations. There have been scores of examples of Officer Mayfies' good police work over the years, including an incident this past spring where this member of Nassau's finest diligently protected the public safety. On April 15, 2022, Officer Mayfies pulled over a driver for a suspected DWI violation. During the course of the field sobriety test in search of the suspect, Officer Mayfies discovered a loaded firearm in the subject's pocket. Officer Mayfies quickly arrested the driver and confiscated the firearm, ensuring an intoxicated motorist with a loaded firearm would no longer pose a danger to the community. This potentially explosive situation was handled by Officer Mayfies before any assistance arrived. He exhibited great control and professionalism during this very intense encounter, and for that, the town of Hempstead is extremely grateful. It is such stellar police work that has earned Officer Mayfies high accolades by his supervisors and colleagues. Residents of this township can rest well at night knowing their hometown is protected by such well-regarded professionals like Officer Mayfies, and the town of Hempstead is proud to present him with the Police Service Award. Our next honorees of the night are police officers Brian Coleman and Michael Passarelli of the 7th Precinct. Outstanding police work oftentimes relies on a partnership between the officers and the constituents they serve. Sometimes that partnership even goes viral. Police officers Brian Coleman and Michael Passarelli of the 7th Precinct demonstrated their keen ability to work with residents when they were contacted by a woman in Seaford by the name of Jean, who reported that she had just received a scam phone call. The would-be scam artist claimed to be the woman's grandson. There had been an accident, and he was in jail, and he needed $8,000 to post bail. He instructed her to leave the cash in an envelope and tape it to her front door so the bail bondsman could swing by and pick it up. Immediately recognizing the scammer's antics, Jean shrewdly played along and feigned concern for her fake grandson's plight. After hanging up with the scammer, she called her local police department and explained the situation. The scammer was on his way to her home, and he was expecting $8,000. Officers Coleman and Passarelli did not miss a beat. They reacted quickly by reporting to the home and parking their marked vehicles out of sight. They trekked back on foot and waited inside Jean's home. Fortunately, they were just in time, as only a few minutes later did the pretend bail bondsman show up to the home. He knocked aggressively on the door, to which the woman answered and handed him an envelope filled with folded-up paper towels. Upon taking his leave, officers Coleman and Passarelli immediately sprung from the doorway and apprehended the scammer. From the porch, Jean watched with satisfaction and recorded the entire incident on her Ring doorbell. The arrest was covered by local media, where the video exploded in popularity and went viral. So much so, the arrest was even picked up by the Drew Barrymore Show. Had it not been for the keen response of officers Brian Coleman and Michael Passarelli, Jean may have been on her own in that potentially dangerous situation. For their impressive adaptability and fine police work, the town of Hempstead is proud to present police officers Brian Coleman and Michael Passarelli with the 2022 Town of Hempstead Police Service Award. I'd now like to introduce our next honoree of the night, Police Officer Kevin Post of the Nassau County 8th Precinct. Over the past 6 years, Officer Kevin Post has made his mark on Nassau County's 8th Precinct by doing the little things that maintain our community's quality of life. Officer Post has written hundreds of traffic tickets to motorists who create hazardous situations on the road. He's also called on during domestic violence and disturbance cases, helping to diffuse volatile situations and keep neighbors safe. Most recently, Officer Post tracked down a suspect who had burglarized a Home Depot store, ensuring that justice was served and stolen property was recovered. Please join us in congratulating Officer Kevin Post as we present him with the Town of Hempstead Police Service Award. Introducing our next honoree is Detective Robert Sullivan of the Nassau County First Squad. Criminals often leave behind evidence, but it takes a seasoned detective like Robert Sullivan to put the pieces together to make an arrest. Earlier this year, Detective Sullivan was called to Roosevelt after a cab driver was robbed at gunpoint with a semi-automatic handgun. Police were able to obtain video surveillance, but it was insufficient to make a positive identification of the suspect. However, the tape did reveal that the suspect left behind several cigarette butts while waiting for the cab. Detective Sullivan brought the cigarettes to the lab, revealing the identity of a man in the DNA database. He then reviewed similar robbery cases in Roosevelt that he believed to be related. The suspect was also named in an NYPD intelligence bulletin, given his history of robbery, burglary, and assault. Shortly thereafter, the suspect was arrested by Hempstead police on a weapons charge, the same gun that was used to commit the robberies in Roosevelt. Case closed. Please join us in congratulating Detective Robert Sullivan of the Nassau County Police First Squad as we present him with the Town of Hempstead Police Service Award.
Jimmy.
Introducing Detectives Joseph Calamita and Ryan Keene of the Nassau County 3rd Squad. When criminals go up against the men and women of law enforcement, they usually find out that they can run, but they can't hide. This past summer, Detectives Joseph Calamita and Ryan Keene were investigating a string of store burglaries that occurred overnight in Westbury. Within hours, they located all 3 stolen cash registers, but there was no sign of the suspect. Continuing their investigation, Detectives Calamita and Keene reviewed video surveillance, tracking the suspect from the Westbury train station to the Brentwood stop. In the days ahead, Detective Calamita, while off duty, noticed a Suffolk County police vehicle in a Brentwood parking lot and shared a wanted flyer about the suspect. Turns out, the officer recognized the alleged thief, and the 2 men exchanged numbers in case they saw him again. The next day, Detective Calamita received good news from his new police contact. The suspect had been arrested and charged with all 3 burglaries. Kudos to Detectives Joseph Calamita and Ryan Keene for not giving up on their investigation until a wanted fugitive was brought to justice. We are proud to present them with the 2022 Town of Hempstead Police Service Award. I would now like to introduce tonight's next honoree, Detective Michael McEntee of the Nassau County 4th Squad. The thin blue line is the only thing standing between criminals and the residents of America's largest township. So when the North Lawrence community was rocked by a series of vehicle thefts and store burglaries earlier this year, Detective Michael McEntee stepped up to protect his community. He began reviewing surveillance video and GPS tracking data from one of the stolen vehicles, which revealed the identification and location of the suspect. As he continued his investigation, Detective McEntee discovered that 6 of the cases he was looking into were connected. Not only did he recover much of the stolen property, but upon the arrest of the suspect on April 4th, Detective McEntee obtained multiple written statements of admission of guilt. Our community is truly indebted to Detective Michael McEntee for his dedication to serving and protecting, and we are proud to present him with the Town of Hempstead Police Service Award. Introduce this evening's next honoree, Detective Dakota Clark of the Nassau County 3rd Squad. When the Nassau County Police need results, they call on the big guns, Detective Dakota Clark. This next honoree has handled more cases and made more arrests than any other detective in the 3rd Squad. From looking into burglaries and crime patterns to investigating a shooting that occurred at Green Acres Shopping Mall in Valley Stream, Detective Clark is committed to keeping residents safe throughout America's largest township. Please join us in congratulating Detective Dakota Clark as we present him with the Town of Hempstead Police Service Award. Introducing Detective James Dobbs of the Nassau County 7th Squad. There is a special kind of person who proudly answers the call to public service. Although there is a healthy rivalry between firefighters and police officers, a unique few are proud to join the ranks of both to fully embrace their passion of helping others. One of these extraordinary souls is Detective James Dobbs. Detective Dobbs is closing in on nearly a decade of serving in the rank of detective. In the past 10 years, Detective Dobbs has assisted in thousands of investigations and has made over 350 arrests. When he's not fighting fires, investigating cases, or making arrests, you can find Detective Dobbs working with new detectives, showing them the ropes and sharing invaluable experience and tips. When the going gets tough, Detective Dobbs gets going. He's the first-round pick you'd love to have on your team, the leader you'd follow into battle, and the friend who always has your back. For his outstanding police work and endless dedication to protecting and serving our community, we are proud to award Detective James Dobbs with the Town of Hempstead Police Service Award. Introducing Detective Stephen Lerner of the Nassau County 8th Squad. Nassau County is protected by one of the finest police forces in the nation, a designation earned through the hard work of dedicated professionals such as Detective Stephen Lerner. Detective Lerner, who serves in the Nassau County Police Department's 8th Squad, has earned a reputation for his thorough investigations and painstaking attention to detail in pursuit of safeguarding our streets from dangerous criminals. Detective Lerner's commitment to preserving the peace extends to his keen eye for detail, especially when he diligently works to track down offenders who threaten the safety of residents. Detective Lerner's skills have come into great focus this year, as he has been engaged in many fine acts of policing. One such act of diligent detective work came when Mr. Lerner spent dozens of hours canvassing for video evidence during an investigation of an armed robbery that occurred in Levittown. Due to the steadfastness of Detective Lerner and his colleagues in the 8th Squad, the vehicle the perps used was identified and the suspects eventually apprehended in Hempstead. The suspects were armed and dangerous. They even exchanged gunfire with the police during their apprehension. It is safe to say that Detective Lerner's investigation efforts afforded law enforcement the opportunity to pick up these violent offenders and ensure the streets were free from such bad actors. The continued safety of Nassau County's communities rests with hardworking public servants like Detective Lerner, and we applaud this incredible law enforcement professional for his service. It is this history of service in mind that the Town of Hempstead is proud to award Detective Stephen Lerner with the Town of Hempstead Police Service Award. Introducing Police Officer Brendan Combs of the Freeport Police Department. Freeport Village Police Officer Brendan Combs is no stranger to fine police work. Finding his start by doing patrols, Officer Combs quickly moved up to the Special Enforcement Team and is now a part of the Community Response Unit. He is an asset to the entire department and is proud to help train new officers in every instance. He has led numerous narcotics investigations and was instrumental in uncovering a methamphetamine manufacturing operation. In March of 2022, Officer Combs partnered with the U.S. Marshals in arresting 116 fugitives in one day on outstanding warrants. Just this past June, Freeport Village police officers were responding to an attempted robbery between housemates. The report indicated that the suspect was armed with a loaded handgun during the altercation. Initial attempts to make contact with the suspect were unsuccessful, and the situation had turned into a barricade. Without hesitation, Officer Combs took the lead and coordinated with fellow officers to clear a path towards the suspect's room. After some time, Officer Combs established communications with the suspect and was able to talk him out of his room and into custody. Officer Combs has proven his worth 100 times over, but he still continues to give the Freeport Police Department 150%, day in and day out. For his tireless efforts with the Freeport Police Department, we are honored to present Police Officer Brendan Combs with the 2022 Town of Hempstead Police Service Award. Introducing Officer Tiffany D'Alessandro of the Garden City Police Department. Few things in life are more jarring than the discovery of strangers in one's home. Thankfully, the dedicated law enforcement professionals serving Hempstead Town's many residents stand on guard against such heinous acts and work day and night to catch those who would attempt to burglarize innocent people. One such brave professional is Officer Tiffany D'Alessandro of the Garden City Police Department. Officer D'Alessandro has been safeguarding the streets of the Flowery Village for 4 years as a member of the Garden City Police Department. Prior to her service in the GCPD, she lent her talents to the City of New York, where she served with the NYPD Transit Division for 3 years. On June 4th, Officer D'Alessandro's years of training kicked in as she responded to a burglary in process. Upon arrival to the scene, Officer D'Alessandro observed a juvenile flee the residence on foot. Officer D'Alessandro pursued the subject across heavy vehicular traffic on Old Country Road to the Mineola Railroad Station parking lot area, where she located the juvenile hiding in the lot. After giving chase, she proceeded to place the captured burglar under arrest. What's more, a thorough investigation by Officer D'Alessandro and a Garden City police detective managed to turn up an additional accomplice to the crime. Officer D'Alessandro's commitment to the people of the village she so passionately serves is admirable, and her courage while in danger has deemed her worthy of great praise. It is with this career of service and acts of bravery in mind that America's largest township proudly awards Officer Tiffany D'Alessandro of the Garden City Police Department with the Town of Hempstead Police Service Award. Introducing Officers Kevin Kessler and Daniel Waters of the Hempstead Police Department. One of the main components to the town of Hempstead being a well-rounded neighborhood for families and friends is the police departments that preserve the safety and well-being of residents within, with fortitude, tenacity, and instinct being the key elements of such successful policing. Officers Kevin Kessler and Daniel Waters showcase all these qualities on June 15th, 2022. On routine patrol throughout the village of Hempstead, Officers Kessler and Waters stuck with their intuition when they were met with out-of-the-ordinary individuals wearing ski masks on an 80-degree summer day. By the time the officers were able to circle around in hopes to relieve their suspicion, their vision was infiltrated by one image, a gun. Before any reaction could be made, both officers' ears were pierced with a series of gunshots. As officers called in on their radio, providing a brief description of the suspects, all individuals dispersed into the neighborhood. Shortly after, a resident generated a 911 call regarding suspicious individuals racing into a gray vehicle as more backup arrived at the scene where the initial shots were fired. As the officers continued their search of the vehicle, shortly after, they spotted the gray Mazda on Washington Street in Hempstead. Kessler and Waters reacted quickly by blocking off the suspected vehicle, creating a barricade with their police car to prevent a possible escape. When the car came to a halt, the first perpetrator jumped out of the car, creating a cat-and-mouse trail on foot. After successfully apprehending the first runaway suspect, officers uncovered their first firearm of the day. The automatic, reactive nature of both officers led to the arrest of 4 individuals, uncovered 4 loaded firearms, and prevented potential harm to all surrounding bystanders. Hempstead Town is honored to continue the tradition of the policing awards to recognize ideal police officers like Kevin Kessler and Daniel Waters of the Hempstead Police Department. Introducing Detective Robert Harrison of the Limbrook Police Department. During the Christmas season, while many prioritize buying the right toys for children, wrapping gifts to perfection, and having the best Christmas lights on the block, Detective Robert Harrison of the Limbrook Police Department was ensuring that the community can enjoy a safe holiday. 2 days before Christmas, Detective Harrison was nearing the end of his shift, but decided to enter a CVS to do a last-minute checkup. This location has experienced a higher volume of shoplifters due to the hustle and bustle of the holiday shopping season. Upon entering, Detective Harrison spotted an individual he suspected to be shoplifting. While keeping a watchful eye from a distance, Harrison allowed the suspect to continue meandering through the aisles. The detective waited by the outside entrance of CVS while the suspect snuck by the registers and made his way to the exit. The detective stopped the individual in the parking lot and called for backup. After Detective Harrison explained to the shoplifter why he was being stopped, the offender unveiled $200 worth of men's products. After being extremely apologetic, the suspect ran into CVS and gave back all the stolen goods, while Detective Harrison was internally debating the fate of the perpetrator. The suspect returned and pushed Harrison to the ground. The perpetrator attempted to resist arrest and flee. With Detective Robert Harrison's quick and efficient skill set, he was able to subdue the suspect. As the CVS manager notified Harrison that he would like him detained, the detective complied with his request and proceeded with the arrest. The Town of Hempstead is honored to grant Detective Robert Harrison with the Hempstead Town Police Service Award due to his bravery, selfless actions, and endless contributions he makes daily in law enforcement. That concludes the awards section of tonight's program, and I would now like to reintroduce Councilman Anthony D'Esposito for closing remarks.
How about a round of applause for all our honorees this evening? A sincere thank you to all of you for being here this evening, and once again, an even more sincere thank you to the family members of all those honored and all of our law enforcement that on a daily basis send their loved ones out to protect and serve. So thank you all for being here and all that you do. We want to thank you all for coming tonight. Congratulations to our honorees, and know that, again, while many elected officials and many governments throughout this nation have turned their back on law enforcement, here in the town of Hempstead, America's largest town, we will always set the tone, and we will always let everyone know that we back the blue and support all the men and women who wear the uniform. Safe home and God bless.